This meeting of the Tyler ISD Board of Trustees was previously called to order. The presence of a quorum has been established and the meeting has been duly called. Notice of the meeting has been posted in the time and manner required. Thank you all for coming out tonight. As we always do, we'll start out with a prayer and a pledge, and I've got it tonight. Please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening humbled and honored to serve in our community in this capacity, God. We recognize the gravity of the position you've placed us in and pray for your wisdom in every decision we make for this district. As we enter the school year, we pray for your hedge of protection over our district. We thank you, Lord, for every single employee who has chosen to serve the children of Tyler. May you give them the strength and the stamina as they steer our beloved children towards successful outcomes. We thank you for just our community, for this family of Tyler, Texas. We recognize that this is a special place to live and work and raise a family. And as we grow, I just pray that we don't lose our identity that is rooted in the values that align with your will for us. May we always make decisions from this dais that are based on what's best for kids. And it's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Okay, we do have a little action after we have reconvened from executive session, and that is to consider the hiring of a director of bilingual and ESL.
Mr. President, I move that we accept the administration's recommendation for Elizabeth Moore for bilingual ESL director.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. The motion carries. Dr. Crawford.
Yeah, Ms. Moore comes to us from Arlington ISD, where she currently works as an assistant principal at their early college high school. We were impressed with her resume and her background and her credentials from coming out of University of Texas at Arlington, where she actually did her master's on bilingual education with an emphasis there. We regretfully are saying goodbye to Anna Sangalene. She's done a great job for us. She gets to realize her dream of being within 20 minutes of an international airport. She's moving to Austin to work at Region 13, where she can be at Bergstrom within 20 minutes and on her way to Spain or Italy or Brazil, anywhere she wants to go. So, Anna, thank you for doing what you did. And Ms. Moore, welcome to Tyler ISD. If you'll come up at this time and perhaps address the audience.
Good evening, Mr. Washman, fellow members of the board, and Dr. Crawford, and everybody here tonight. Thank you for having me here tonight. I'm an honor and excited to begin this new role with Tyler ISD as a new Director of Bilingual and ESL Department. I would also like to thank everybody I've had the pleasure of interacting with through this interview process. Everybody has been so welcoming that it just overjoys my heart. I give glory and honor to Jesus for this opportunity. And I thank you all for your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, welcome to Tyler.
I think you brought some folks with you.
Oh, yes.
I know you're a little emotional, but let's go ahead and introduce them, okay?
Yes, my husband, Greg Moore, is back there. And my in-laws are here. Liz Moore, we have the same name. And Randy Moore, and my son Seth, that's 2 years old. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excited to have you on board. Okay. Now, we have special recognitions. Go ahead and go out.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Crawford. I'd welcome you to the front here for tonight's recognitions of successful student outcomes. Someone's excited. We would like to say congratulations to the following Tyler Legacy High School student for their academic performance in the following academic competition. National Technology Student Association Cybersecurity First Place, Nick Gaffney. Yes, national champion. And that concludes our recognitions for this evening.
That's wonderful. That's number one
Okay.
in the nation, man.
I like it, national champ, just one. One up top of the mountain, only one recognized, love it. It's good stuff. Okay. We have a first week of school update coming up.
Yes, sir. It's proud to give everybody a back-to-school update here to kind of lead us off for the board meeting tonight. Certainly great news coming from last year's accountability ratings, and we'll hear more about those later on in our continuous improvement portion. We'll recognize our principals that are in the room in regard to their distinctions that they earned, and very excited about that. They had a little reception here at the very back before we actually had the meeting. Our enrollment is up today compared to this time last year. Now, I don't think we've grown 600 students, but we are at 18,160. We were at 17,500 a year ago at this time. I do think everybody's figured out they want to get their kids back into school as early as they possibly can, and so we're excited about that. Plus, I think we're doing a better job at counting warm bodies and getting our enrollment cleaned up from the previous year and who's actually here and whatnot. So very proud to report that we're at 18,160. I think we finished up last year, Tasha, at 18,135. So we're actually above that final number from last May, which usually doesn't happen. After September 1 or after Labor Day, we usually see a spike in enrollment as well. So we'll probably have a few more show up here. Something we're really proud of that our HR staff has done an incredible job. I reported this at convocation and made them all stand up. I won't do that today, but our district teaching faculty is staffed at 99.6%. That's incredible. So Mr. Jones, Ms. Taylor, along with any other HR folks that are in the room, it is a struggle every year to run HR for a district our size, but having a 99.6 staffing rate for our teaching faculty is incredible compared to what you hear on the news, on TikTok, on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook, everything that you can think of. That's right, I said fake book with a K. Our auxiliary vacancies are much improved in areas like custodial and transportation. There's probably a lot of factors that have led into this. Certainly stimulus money has gone away for the time being, and folks are actually hungry to go to work. But at the same time, this board has done a great job in making sure that the budget that we adopt tonight, there's a compensation boost in there for all of our staff members, again, I think it's the 10th year in a row that y'all be considering a budget for a compensation increase. But we really worked hard, thanks to Ms. Bjork and her staff, of looking at some of our areas of our support staff to really get them up to competitive wages so that we can fill those positions. Some unsuspected HVAC challenges popped up in week one. Mr. Loper's here. Thanks to them, they were able to to actually get some of our classrooms during that 104-degree heat or 103-degree heat we had last week, at least for the first 3 days, with some temporary HVAC assistance. Believe it or not, we had lightning strikes that actually caused some problems with a few units over there at Ramey Elementary. And then thank you, Mr. Loper, and thank you, Ms. Bjork, from our campuses for allowing us to drop the temperature floor by 2 degrees Wednesday through Friday. You know, it's a big spend. And everybody knows what your electric bill looks like right now. The district is no exception. But thank you for doing that. We were able to get past that. Now, obviously, with the front that we had that came in today and the rain that came in, hopefully we're not going to spike back up to triple digits again before the year's over with. Safety and security vigilance enhanced with our new strategies and equipment. It's being deployed as it rolls in. Just like with the rest of our purchasing something in our country, we've had issues being able to get all of our supplies in, and as they come in, we deploy those devices out. Remember that some of those safety and security devices and our strategies are proprietary for obvious reasons. Don't always want to disclose everything that you got going on as far as your safety and security goes, but we certainly try to do as much as we can. And they're still statutorily monitored by our designated safety and security team. In fact, Dr. Nation and Mr. Washman actually sit on those, not team, but the group, the committee, that actually sit on that committee. That committee's made up of district parents, it's made up of district administration, it's made up of 2 board members, along with other agencies represented. In fact, our last meeting, we had representatives from the FBI, we had representatives from ATF in there as well. The Smith County Constables, a couple of their offices were there. The Sheriff's Office was there, along with TPD and the Fire Department. And as y'all know, the Fire Chief is our emergency coordinator. And then we also have something to talk about tonight. The board just throw some softballs out there for you to talk about a little bit about the Defender/Guardian plan that this board adopted. It is a slow roll on that as far as a rollout goes in regard to that. It does not mean that all of our teaching staff is going to be armed to the hilt every day. And I said all to the hilt every day. But it is going to be a strategy, more of a hybrid, to where we will have it at our disposal as we go along to get folks trained, to be able to have the possibility to kind of patch maybe some gaps that we do have in the hiring of law enforcement. We have allotted 13 to 15 peace officer slots for hire. Danny Brown's working on that right now. We've also got a safety and security staff of 3 retired FBI agents that actually work with us as well, that go along with our I believe our 20 police officers that we have. So by the time that they're done and they're staffed, we should have anywhere from 33 to 35 police officers deployed throughout the district. Now, that'll take a little while to get there. So we want to make sure that we have our gaps covered, and that's where the Guardian plan would actually possibly be used. You would actually have training that you'd have to go through. You'd have to have psychological evaluations that are done in regard to that, and you'd have to actually go through a lot of crisis situation training before you actually deployed that. So appreciate y'all adopting that. Again, it's a slow roll, it's a methodical rollout in regard to that, but we wanted to make sure we got that in place and work up to a point of deployment in case we ever need it, as opposed to looking down the line and saying, just like there's a teacher shortage, there is also a shortage of those that wear the badge. So we would certainly be very discreet in how we do that. And per statute, this board right here, elected officials, monitors what the administration is doing in regard to that. So in case there's the public out there that might have a little bit of concern about the old superintendent here just deciding to go wild, wild west on everyone, I can assure y'all that's not the case. 1, it's not my nature to do that. For 2, you've got these 7 individuals that I have to report to in regard to that plan. So that's a little bit about the back to school update that we have. Any questions in regard to back to school things?
Board? Well, it sounds like we've had a pretty good first week of school, except for some AC units. Thank you for digging into that plan a little bit. I think it's important to convey that to the community, that it's a card we could play if we needed to, but if we find all the officers we need, it's most likely, won't necessarily be necessary.
That's
So,
correct. It also, Mr. Washman, it also gives us a little creativity on individuals out there that might have already gone through that training. I go to church every Sunday. I see folks that are there for the safety of the congregation that's there. Certainly, sometimes that may be retirees, and if they want to come maybe work part-time for our school system, we've got someone who's already gone through that similar training that can maybe be an easy certification, easy deployment at a campus where we might need that gap filled as well. So, we won't be disclosing to the public on who might be a guardian or a defender. That will be contained within the team of 8 per statute. Is that correct, Mr. Hardy? Caught you writing something. Guardian plan. Those that are designated, actually, per statute, actually is the board that is very discreet about who those individuals are. Correct. So, in saying that's just another little point that we want to add on that we're not just trying to go out and just create our own.
Right. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just want to make a comment about the 99.6% employment rate. I think that's excellent for this district, and I applaud you for it. Considering the shortage that we have in teachers in the state of Texas, I think we've done a very good job on trying to make sure we had our classrooms filled. Very good job.
Thank you, Mr. Newsom.
Agreed.
I appreciate for the last 6 years or so, we've had the District of Innovation. We kind of saw this coming not too long ago, and while we always want to hire certified teachers, we do have the District of Innovation at our disposal for to hire a degreed professional who may be starting education as a second career after retirement, or maybe just a change of pace. And we've got some of those DOIs. We'll report those out to you here, I think, in October or November. Thank you, Mr. Newsom.
Anybody else? Any comments on anything back to school related? First week of school. Okay. Moving on. We have an accountability update.
It's that time of year. We had great news come out on Monday. We've got Dr. James Curitan and Dr. Lance Gropel that will be providing the accountability update. The paper did a great job of covering it, along with our TV stations here locally. Social media has been hopping about it, but we want to make sure we did our thing and give you all an update here from the administrative table right there. Dr. Gropel, Dr. Curitan.
Good evening, President Washman, Board, and Dr. Crawford. As Dr. Crawford said, here to provide you with an accountability update with the official numbers and official data. We've been before you with some numbers, but what all that translates into actual ratings for campuses as well as distinctions and that alike as we look at the overall district performance. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Curitan.
Okay, so before we jump into the numbers, we just want to provide a quick reminder of what the accountability system looks like. It is a 3-domain system where they look at performance, student performance on STAR, as well as school progress, which is growth on the STAR assessment. And then in domain 3, we look at closing the gap. So essentially, we're looking at performance and growth differences between about 13 to 14 different student groups. Whatever a campus or district scores higher on, whether it's performance or growth, is taken into account, and that's 70% of the overall scores that you're going to see. I know you've seen this slide many times. I wanted to put it in here real quick just to remind you, when we talk about performance, we're talking about students that pass at the approaches level, as well as meets and as well as masters. So all 3 performance levels are included when we talk about students tonight, whether it's performance scores or whatnot. So we'll jump into the district rating. Across the top, we gave you kind of a 5-year picture because it's been a while since we've been able to put some numbers to our accountability scores. 2018 is when we transitioned to this new 3-domain accountability system. You can see where we were in 2018 and 19. 2020 was when we had the COVID mitigation period, so we didn't take the STAR assessment. And then in 2021, we were not rated because of COVID as well. So you can see overall, we scored an 88 this year as a district, which is the highest we've been in 5 years. So it's the highest rating we've had in this new accountability system. You can look at student achievement, which is domain 1, that's student performance. We were at an 87, that's the highest we've been in 5 years. The same with academic growth, relative performance, and closing the gap. So we've improved in every single domain and overall for every year we've been rated with this new system.
Before you go forward, James, just let me, one thing on there. I'd draw your attention to the academic growth and closing gaps numbers there. You see a double-digit gain in the academic growth and nearly a double-digit gain in the closing the gaps. I think coming out of the post-pandemic world, to see those kind of numbers really are a testament to our teaching staff and our campus leadership, or who are here in the room with us tonight, that just really address a higher level of student need than we've ever seen and address it in a manner that exceeds pre-pandemic levels for us as a district.
So we just want to touch on this real quick, because this was a pretty big deal once we got these ratings. This was the first year we've been rated with 0 unacceptable or improvement required campuses since 2009, 2010. So that precedes even this accountability system, goes back to the 4 indexes. And it's a pretty big deal for where we're at. So a lot of improvement since then. We did want to just present the distinction data up here real quick. We did not earn the district distinction, but we were inching closer. Essentially, you can see that we needed, well, the way this table is broken down is for the district distinction, we have to hit a certain number of elementary, middle, and high school indicators. And we came up with about 28 of those indicators, 14 from the elementary schools, 4 from the middle schools, and 10 from the high schools. And those indicators come from meets and masters in math and reading, as well as science, social studies, as well as some of the college career military readiness measures that we always do every year. We came up about 8 quartile 1 indicators short from where we needed to be, but we are getting closer and closer every year. So you can see as you move left to right in that table, we're actually consistently improving at the campuses, which moves the district closer to earning a distinction. We'll transition now into the campus rating. So these are the elementary campuses. There's a lot going on here, but we did want to show you, because we thought it was important, where we started in 2018, where we were rated in 2019. Again, we were not rated for 2 years due to COVID, and then we earned our ratings this year. And with the ratings this year, it's 5 years, no elementaries that were improvement required, so every elementary's met standard for 5 consecutive years.
I think to highlight on this slide, just some monumental gains as you look at the comparison of the 2019 column to the 2022 column. You can start there at the top at Austin with a 13-point jump, and you can just make your way down the list of just so many successes for us to see. You got Jones there from a 68 in 2019 to an 81 B, and I was on Dr. Crane's campus, so she got to share the joy with her staff and just the excitement of that hard work paying off. You can see Owens there with a 91, all A's across the board for Owens, which is a very difficult thing to accomplish at an elementary campus, to have an A in every one of the domains that Dr. Cureton presented earlier there as well. You see Pete, another example of just a great success story in student growth, and I think Dr. Cureton will get into some more of the breakdown of that.
Yeah, just to show you what it looks like specifically, we did put all the domain scores up here for our elementaries as well as where they're at overall. 14 of our 17 elementaries met standard across the board. Owens did have all A's in every domain as well as overall. We had a few campuses with scores that were right on the line of meeting the standard for student performance and relative performance this year. We do want to just touch real quick on the 4 campuses designated for targeted support and improvement. That's just essentially a label that's tied to their Domain 3 scores. It's not a state label of not meeting the standard and improvement required. Those are completely separate intervention labels, just to be clear.
And I'd draw your attention again to the growth columns 2A and Domain 3, just to see the level of growth at our campuses. That's year, comparing students from year 1 to year 2 to see how their performance improves from one year to the next. I think lots to highlight here. I'd point out Dixie there in Domain 2A at a 92. That's out of 100. I don't know if y'all are great at math. I'm not. That's a pretty high percentage there to be highlighted as well. And just the overall growth that all of our elementary campuses saw, and ultimately closing those gaps for our kids.
Okay, so if we talk distinctions at our elementaries, just to give you a quick refresher on distinction, there are indicators, distinction indicators for each of those 6 distinctions that can be earned, and elementaries have to be in the top quartile of a comparison group for half of those indicators to get the distinction. So every campus is determined by the state to be compared to 40 other, in this case, elementaries across the state. And then based on the relative performance of those campuses, they can qualify for distinctions if they outperform essentially 75% of them. So we just want to go through these real quick and show you that the number of reading and science distinctions went up from where we were in 2018-19. Math stayed the same, so we got 5 in math in 2018-19 as well as this year. For closing the gaps and post-secondary readiness, you can see where we stood. We increased the number of post-secondary readiness distinctions. And I think that's an important one because we've pushed and talked about meets and masters here many times. And the only indicator for our elementaries that goes into post-secondary readiness is how high students are performing on the state assessment. So are they performing at the meets and masters level? Okay, here's a breakdown of where our campuses, which campuses earn distinctions, and then and we can talk about those. I do want to point out real quick on the right-hand side, you can see we increased since 2018-19, not just the number of distinctions, but the number of campuses that have earned a distinction. So that's a pretty great thing to celebrate. And on the left-hand side, we do go through all of our elementaries that earned a distinction and show you how many distinctions they earned. So Caldwell and Burwell led the way with 5, followed by Jack and Owens, each with 4, and then you can kind of see the rest of them from there.
Well, Dr. Curidan, we have those principals here tonight. I want to make sure that we recognize the ones that received distinctions for coming tonight. So if I call your name, would you please stand up? And so that we can, and let's hold our applause until they actually all stand up. But Tamara Johnson, Bell Elementary. We had an interim situation at Birdwell Elementary with Gretchen Nabby and Miss Gomez over there. I don't think they're here tonight, but is Nabby here? Birdwell Elementary represented. Bonner Elementary with 1. That's Stephanie Burns. Caldwell Elementary, Bobby Markle. Clarkson Elementary, representing them tonight, is Miss Sarah Curitan. Dr. Julie Davis is also here, who is their chief of schools that supervises Clarkson Elementary. Douglas Elementary, the indomitable Christy Roach, the legend. There you go. Jack Elementary, Brett Shelby. Jones Elementary, receiving her doctorate from Baylor University, that is Dr. Natasha Crane. Owens Elementary, now at 3 Lakes, but Owens Elementary, Rachel Sherman. There she is back there with one of her brood. Rice Elementary, John Smiley. Where's Mr. Smiley? There he is right there. And then Woods Elementary, Georgiana Jones. Those are our elementary principals that receive distinctions. Congratulations, y'all.
Okay, just to shift gears, and now focus on our secondary campuses. We did, this year, it was the first year in this new accountability system, we had 0 improvement required campuses at the secondary level, so no middle and high schools rated as improvement required. They all met standard. And just to give you some idea of where they stood, 5 of those improved their letter grade, and the other 4 maintained. So none of our secondary campuses dropped a letter grade this year.
And before you get to the next slide, obviously a lot to highlight on this slide. The shift at Hogg and going out in style there with Mr. Simmons going 9 to a 76 is a significant jump, but also draw your attention to Hubbard going up 9 points. Early college, I mean, if you're into 98s, that's pretty good, I guess. And you know, draw your attention to Rise right there at a 93. I know Dr. Floyd and his team over there were pleasantly surprised at Convocation with that A and a well-deserved A, as well as Tyler High, you know, jumping up into the B ranks and knocking it out of the park there with the Clodfather at Tyler High.
That's right. Just one more little piece of commentary, y'all. Really want to give kudos to Sherry Taylor and Dr. Kristen Walls at Hogg. That's who occupied the principalship at Hogg in 2020 and 2021, We were scheduled to come off in either one of those years if we would have taken the test or if they would have counted. 2020, as y'all know, we had to go home early. We didn't even come to school the last 3 months of the year. That was Ms. Taylor. Then she was promoted to Executive Director of HR. Dr. Walls came in for 2021. We tested there and did well enough to get off the list, but no accountability ratings were actually given to us. It was not just a Justin Simmons thing, even though he took the baton and got it across the finish line. Kudos to the 3 principals that got Hogg off of that F, that ugly F. So congratulations, Hogg.
And just to, again, follow suit and provide a breakdown of all the campuses, the secondary campuses, and how they performed in each domain. You can kind of see the breakdown there. And again, we had some of our campuses identified at the federal level, so essentially based on their Closing the Gap score, either this year or in prior years, so some of that continued from prior years. You can see which ones they are for comprehensive support and improvement as well as targeted support and improvement. Okay, back to distinctions for our secondary campuses. They function exactly the same as our elementary distinctions. The only difference is that our high schools, they have substantially more indicators that can help them earn a distinction or hurt them, and they only have to meet 33% of their indicators. So it's a little bit different, but it is the same principle in terms of how it functions. You can see how we did overall with all the distinctions. The one extra distinction that our secondary campuses can earn that our elementaries cannot is the social studies. So you can see social studies, we earned two of our campuses earned that distinction this year. And for our secondary distinctions, I just want to point out too, you're not looking, when we present the numbers, Dr. Grobel talked about RISE, they were an A. That campus is considered essentially what's called an AA campus. It's a different type of accountability. So they won't qualify for distinctions, so I'm telling you that. So when you look at these, know this is really out of 8 campuses that we're talking about distinctions from the data we're about to show you. So here's our breakdown with 6 of our secondary campuses earning distinctions. You can see again on the right-hand side, we were pretty consistent in the number of distinctions, but they did come at more of our campuses. So we have more campuses earning distinctions, but overall it's the same total number.
So similar to what we did for elementaries, we do have principals in the room tonight. We're very proud of them and what they accomplished last year at their campuses. So we'll ask them to stand up. Please hold your applause so that we're done. Again, Hogg Middle School, Justin Simmons. Ms. Taylor, Dr. Walls, why don't y'all go ahead and stand up? You're here too, so y'all played into that. Hubbard Middle School, we have Jeff Sherman with his brood. Moore Middle School is Aubrey Ballard. Early College High School is Amanda Hortman. Old 98, there you go. Legacy High School, Dr. Walls, you're already standing. And then Tyler High School, Mr. Claude Lane, the Claude father. And then Dr. Floyd also wears his green and gold regalia. Would you stand up for your A at RISE as well? That's our secondary campuses earned a distinction.
That's what we have. There's our update, and we can answer questions if you have them.
Okay, board, any questions, comments?
I probably should have jumped in there earlier, but on about the 4th slide, talking about the elementary schools and, wait, go back to the other one, that one. It says 4 campuses are designated for targeted support and improvement, Austin, Orpete, and Rice. Is that correct? Is it Rice or should it be Ramey?
It is correct. It's a little strange. So the way you have to think of the federal intervention labels is they don't necessarily correlate with the overall score.
Okay.
So you can actually have like an A campus that's targeted support and improvement. What targeted support and improvement has to do with missing 3 indicators for kind of consecutively for a specific student group. So the same student group misses the same indicators for a couple of years.
Okay.
And so those, I believe, are all addressed in their SIPs in terms of what they're going to do to work on that.
Okay.
Dr. Nation, you and I can talk the same lingo here. think back to the old AYP days, when you might have had a recognized campus,
Yeah,
but they might have failed to meet AYP. The
Okay.
alignment on federal and state accountability is not always perfect,
yeah.
so that's what you've got.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense, thank you.
Just a comment in regards to our district. You know, and I've said this ever since I've been here, and I'm very critical about academics because I think we should excel, and I think that we're going in the right direction. I applaud you for doing that. All the campuses are very much, they seem to be improving, and I push for that personally. I do want to make a comment in regards to how we publicize it. I think that we need to publicize it a lot more to our community so that they are aware that we are excelling or beating all the other schools within the district in regards to standardized testing. I think that it's not publicized enough how well this district does, although we do have some areas of improvement. I think that we're doing an excellent job in regards to trying to eliminate those areas. But I think that we need to publicize it a lot more, how good TISD district is in meeting the academics of our children.
Very good. Noted.
I think since y'all are all in the room, it's safe to say thanks and congratulations, guys. This is awesome data. I love when this data comes back like this. It's certainly validates a lot of the work that we try and do up here, and certainly as a parent, it makes me feel really good. And I know our kids are in really great hands with you guys and your staffs and the teachers and everything else. You guys are working hard, and it shows, and I appreciate you guys for that. Thank you.
Absolutely. I see, I'm so thankful for y'all. I mean, y'all are the watchwinders. Y'all oversee the daily operations. You energize your staff. I mean, there's so much on your plate, and this, you know, I just envision y'all winding that watch every single day to get school done. And when you see these results, it's so inspiring, especially from this level, because, you know, we're not on the campuses daily, but you know, I have so much respect for what y'all do as principals day in and day out, and I don't think you get enough appreciation at the principal position. We put a lot on y'all, and I know Marty puts a lot on y'all. So to see these numbers and to look year over year, you know, you're looking back from, I think we got some, you know, 2015 up to current. There's solid, steady growth, and I think it says something about consistency at the superintendent's level, Dr. Crawford, and then at the board level, to just be able to see something through and get better and better in slow increments. I just think that's a good, healthy way to do things. So I'm proud of y'all and thankful for this room full of principals here. Does anybody else have any comments? I know I kind of jumped out.
Same comment, very appreciative. You have families, you have children, and you do an outstanding job all the time. It's difficult being a principal, and so I am more than grateful for what you do. So we appreciate you and just thank you. If we could give you more money, we would, but who knows? The best is yet to come.
Thank you. Great job. It's good to see this trending. It's as good as I've seen it in a long time. And so just keep it up, guys. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
I mean, clearly what everybody else says, and, you know, I've only been on this board for a little over a year, and I haven't seen some of these numbers before. But looking back on from 2018 to now, this is pretty amazing. It makes me really proud that I have kids in this district. So thank you.
I'll be the one that's kind of like the old coach that says we're going to enjoy this win for 24 hours and then get on to the next one, because it is time for the next one. So the celebrating, the high-fiving, it starts anew. So no doubt had a great year last year. I think we've been able to celebrate that long enough. I will say I do think that there's a little caution in the wind. Remember, we have a legislative session this year. We already have signaling from Texas Education Agency that the assessment will change, and y'all know that you know, a home run tonight in Dodger Stadium is going to be counted the same way as a home run in Yankee Stadium, and that's not always the case in our accountability system, and I'm afraid that's probably what's going to come down the pike. So be on your toes and your head on a swivel for what's coming down the pike in regard to the accountability system, because we will not be, every time we think we're about to score a touchdown, they make the field 110 yards long instead of 100 yards long. So last thing I'll say, and I'll end this on a positive note, we're very fortunate to have the school board that we have. They do a good job at the governance level of doing the best they can to free us up to educate kids. We're not having to fight a lot of battles like other school systems are fighting in regard to a lot of the things that are floating around us and circulating around us in social media, from whatever three-letter network is out there, whatever one side or the other is saying. This board right here does a good job, and I'm not saying that because I work for them. I mean it, and it's in the results. You already talked about consistency, but at the same time, they come up here and do the work of a school system and not try to get outside their boundaries and outside their lane and taking on some of this other stuff. So publicly, I'm just here to say that thank y'all for doing that, because it would be awfully difficult if we were having to worry about everything that's going on in our country right now instead of just teaching kids. That is what school systems are designed to do, not politics. And a lot of stuff that we're having to deal with right now are politically driven. So y'all thank the board when you get a chance. If you see them on your campus, you see them in the community, for doing the job that they've done. All right? Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Crawford. I was looking back, by the way, at scores, and I just come on the board, and that was a tough year we had. It was the year before you got here, and I think there were 13 schools on our that year. However, I think it was a year or two before then, we had a really good score, and they changed the metrics on us, and it kind of broadsided us. And so that's good to bring up and good to be aware of kind of some changing standards. And but hopefully if we do what we do and we do what we've been doing, we'll keep getting base hits there. So
we've got a good culture for continuous improvement. Our chief school officers, Dr. Ward, she's out there somewhere along with Dr. Davis, Ms. Chapa. Very impressed by them. They're kind of behind the scenes. They're the instructional support folks that we've got at central office. So they're there to help improve achievement as well. So I wanted to make sure we bring them up. And Dr. Curidan, you've done an outstanding job since becoming Director of Assessment and Accountability. How many years have you been doing that now?
This is 6.
Year 6, okay. I remember we first started in doing these projections and then coming up with this system that we have as far as trying to predict how we're going to do. It was kind of up and down, but you've done a great job of that. You're well respected, at least in the Texas School Alliance, certainly as well. So I want to make sure those behind the scenes folks get a little bit of kudos here. The principals are the quarterbacks. These folks are the offensive linemen that do what they can to protect them. So it's football season. We might as well use football analogies. So thank y'all for that.
yes. Okay. Well, good stuff. We'll go ahead and move on to our district improvement plans and campus improvement plans and the planning process.
Yeah, so you've actually, Dr. Gropel, do you have something you'd like to say to them? I'll take it. How about that? So every year, per statute, y'all are presented, the board is presented with district improvement plans, along with going through what the planning process is. And so we have that. Did one of y'all bring your binders? So you can show the public what we give y'all? Okay, there you go. So that's a condensed version. Those are actually a lot more information, but certainly board, as part of the statutory process, that shows that we've actually been planning and that we do have plans for continuous improvement at our campuses. That is for y'all to adopt tonight so that we can move forward with the plans that we do have.
Okay. Very good.
But it's not an action item yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. We'll move along to public participation then, if nobody wants to talk about that.
I wanted to have
sorry.
a comment about that.
Yes.
having done this in my past at my much smaller school district, and knowing how much work it was to work through the improvement plans for the district and for the campuses, this is a massive amount of work to get it down on paper. And I just want to tell those that are responsible, thank you, and I understand the hard work that you go through to produce a document that you follow through.
It is
for
a
the
massive
year.
document.
As they're all walking out
I
of the
know,
meeting
thank
right
you
now,
very much.
we're not taking name, look at Mr. Ballard.
I mean, you couldn't
He
wait
didn't
until
get up
public
yet.
participation.
But seriously, thank you for saying that. It is an arduous process to do so. And I'll say this, I do believe at one time, I think it was my first year here, had a lot of things floating around me, and we didn't adopt the campus improvement plans, I don't think, till December.
You're right.
So how can you plan for a school year if you're getting,
Yeah.
I might have left one thing uncovered, one or two things, but seriously, that's a big deal for us to make sure that we have those as close to the front of school to be presented to y'all as well. So thank y'all for doing that, Claude Lane, as you're walking out the door. Okay.
No doubt. Okay. Now we'll move on to public participation, and I don't believe we had any speakers sign up. Okay, we'll move on to approval of minutes. We have minutes of a regular meeting for July 25th. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Okay, we have a public hearing on the 2022 and 2023 budget.
Ms. Tasha Bjork, you gonna come up here? You wanna come talk to him a little bit? This culminates a process that we began back in June, I believe. So if you're coming to hear the budget for the first time at this meeting, it is actually a process that we go through the entirety of the summer, to we actually report to the board different things about compensation, tax rates, how we spend our state comp ed money, et cetera, et cetera. And Mrs. Bjork is our CFO that's actually been with us for 20-plus years now. She's one of the better ones in the state. Have a little dialogue here in regard to the actual hearing for the budget.
Okay, I have just an overall summary. We won't go through all the details like we have the past few months. But the budget for general fund is $169.5 million. And we have given, raised the teacher minimum pay to $50,000 and given step increases for teachers. And then we have increased the minimum wage from $9-something to $12 per hour. We have increased the number of police officers, and those are the three main increases. We gave increases for other employees too, but those are the main increases. And we were still able to accomplish all that with almost an 11-cent tax decrease. 3.5 cents is from our debt service side, and the remainder is from our maintenance and operations. And also with that, we still are able to put aside 3 pennies of our tax rate for preventive maintenance. So those are the kind of the highlights. Do y'all have any questions?
Does anybody have any questions regarding this item? Comments? No, thank you for always doing a good job and keeping us in good shape. It is encouraging that we can add necessary things and still lower the tax rate this year. I'm really proud of that. And anyway, yeah, unless anybody else has any comments or questions on this item, then I guess that's it for the public hearing. Dr. Crawford?
Yeah, just reminding to give an opportunity for the public to speak on the budget, part of the hearing.
Of course. Does anybody from the public want to speak on this hearing? It is a public hearing. Don't see anybody. Okay. All right, well, we'll move along then. We do have a few action items. Oh, come up to the mic. And this is on our 2022-2023 budget. Correct. Okay.
Yes, I guess I'm curious as to why there's a lowering in the tax rate, because there seems like a lot of other improvements that could be made with that money, and I don't know what that equals up to, but even in hearing like we had to lower the floor for the air conditioning in the schools last week, like that is future like improvement that could be put into like solar panels or other expenses that could like mitigate those costs in the future as well.
So I think on the air conditioning, he was just talking about lowering the temperature.
Yeah, I got that.
Okay.
But
yeah.
the more you have to pump out, you know, the more it costs the district. And if we were putting money into long-term improvement plans for like solar panels and for making sustainable energy a priority for the district instead of increasing the number of police officers on campus, that seems like that might end like long-term net zero at least.
Anybody care to comment?
First, do you care to give us your name so we can put it in the minutes?
Sure.
Okay.
Kate Carrejo, Carrejo.
Thank you. We typically put our public speakers' names in the minutes. As far as lowering the temperature, usually we have a set temperature, whether it be the winter or the summer. Awfully hot this summer,
Yeah.
no doubt about it. So we
Yeah, climate change.
well, I don't know about that. So 72 degrees is where we typically have it set. That's where we'll have it set. So a little warm in our schools. And so we wanted to make sure that our students were comfortable to learn and our teachers were comfortable to teach. So that's why we went down an extra 2 degrees. We'll actually keep it at 72 degrees because we do have fiscal prudency that we're supposed to maintain as well. We can't just leave the air conditioners on running all the time in regard to that as well. So we have budget.
Yeah, my
needs
question is about the budget though.
Yeah.
So why is the budget being decreased rather than that
Tax
money
rate,
spent
we're
on?
paying. Okay, that's a good question. So first of all, the state legislature actually compressed the maintenance and operations side of the tax rate by about 8 pennies because we're reducing by 11, I guess. So on that 8 side, that's written in the statute. We have to do that. We don't have a choice on that. Now, we actually still have more money to operate with than we did last year because property values are up. On the other side of it is the debt service side. We actually take out debt to build these great facilities that our taxpayers have decided to vote for to put our kids in. And so on that side, because of values, we're able to commit to our taxpayers that we're actually reducing the tax rate by 3 pennies over there. During the bond election, while we were pitching that was actually, and you're asking this question, so I'm going to take your time off a little bit. Just pause it. We promised them 1 penny, but we can actually go to 2 pennies, which actually assists every taxpayer, every homeowner here in Tyler ISD. So that's why we're reducing the tax rate. We're not without funding to operate our schools.
We can't use debt service money to pay for air conditioning bills or facilities. They're 2 separate things. So when we lower the tax rate on the debt side, you can't just put that money over into the maintenance and operations side. That's statutory, I believe.
That's correct. There's only certain things you can actually spend debt money on. In
Okay.
Tyler, we spend it on the building of buildings.
So there's,
and then-
there's no,
Over time, as we pay off that debt that the public has so graciously, blessed us with, we can lower the burden on the public as time goes by, which most people in the community do appreciate.
okay. Well, I am a
But-
parent and a homeowner in Tyler ISD, and my kid has 6 more years in school, so
Okay.
I'm
Good.
also interested in making sure that the high school isn't boiling by the time that she gets there. Thank you.
Those newly built high schools are great. And we appreciate the public for doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public participants?
I'm just inquiring about a couple things. This is Cody Grace, if you don't know. Are there any federal grants or state grants for improving the building security? Are you guys receiving any funds for like capital expenses on just like bulletproof glass, doors, that kind of thing?
Mhm.
Was that I didn't look at the budget, sorry. Was that identified in the budget?
In the annual, there are grants that you're able to qualify for.
Yeah.
We have qualified for many grants.
Cool.
Jeff Millsagel, our Director of Safety and Security, kind of runs that.
Okay.
Yes, bullet-resistant film, other intangibles that can go along with that, yes, sir.
Was access control included in that at all? Do you know? if
Access
that-
control is included, has been included in every one of our buildings that we've built since 2004.
I've noticed that with Caldwell, I was just,
Yeah, but not the grant.
okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if there was any grant money for access control,
Yeah.
just to offset that cost.
Yeah, I'm, Mr. Grace, I don't know where else we could put access control.
Yeah.
If you know where some doors where we need it, we can
Right.
certainly
I
look
know.
at them.
And it's a broad question, obviously.
Absolutely.
Just trying to identify it, so. Another thing I was curious about was, is there there's a lower tax rate for public utilities, correct? Like for electricity delivery, are you guys receiving stuff like that? I know there's is there a discount rated on electricity delivery for you guys?
Not aware of that.
Okay, just curious.
Okay,
Anyway, thank you.
okay.
Come on up, come on down.
Hi, my name's Rebecca Smith. I was curious about a contract with Nextstep Community Solutions. It's a nonprofit in town, and they offer free behavioral health counseling to schools at a much lower rate than a school would be able to privately contract, and also a suicide prevention program. And I had heard that that was canceled this year, the contract with that nonprofit. And I assumed it was for budgetary reasons.
Well, we do have different funds that are available through ESSER. I don't know if you're familiar with ESSER, the federal stimulus money that schools were given for 3 years, to where we were actually allowed to hire more counseling staff, more LPCs as well. Whether or not we're actually going to utilize any other vendor is TBD from what I understand.
Well, I just want to impress upon the board the importance of that mental health counseling for the students, especially given the climate with the guns and everything.
Absolutely.
And there's something else I was wondering about with the Guardian program that is related to the budget. Would Tyler ISDs be providing legal counsel and insurance in the event that a staff member were to kill a perpetrator? Would there be a budget allotment for that?
There is insurance requirements in regard to that with whoever we choose to actually insure us, similar to what's covering our police department already and our director, our safety and security department as well. Guardian members would actually be under that umbrella.
Okay, that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody who participated. Anybody else have any questions about the budget or anything pertaining thereto? Okay. Once again, thank you for coming up and speaking. Okay, now we have some action items. First is to consider the adoption of the 2022 and 2023 budgets that we just had a hearing on.
I move we approve the administration's recommendation on the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Bergfeld. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Okay, now we get to consider the adoption of our 2022 and 2023 tax rate.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve our 22-23 tax rate.
Thank you. I have a motion on that, and we can discuss it a little bit afterwards too, since we've reviewed it. But do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Let's talk just a little bit about this tax rate, because in my humble opinion, it's a big deal for the community. I did some research, and we have not had a tax rate this low since well beyond, from what I can tell, 2005. So we're talking 17 years of tax rates that are well higher than what we just adopted. although values have risen, and I think everybody knows that, in Tyler, Texas, all of our homes are rapidly increasing, which does impact the amount of taxes you pay. You know, we're trying to do our best on our end to fund our schools with the appropriate amount that we need to function and take care of all our kids, because that's the main thing. We focus on successful student outcomes. That is our major primary focus, is successful student outcomes. But when we get to help our community out, you know, come tax time, that's a big deal. And so this $17.93, I looked back in 05, it was 154, 148, 137.5. You know, that's pretty far cry from those numbers. So I'm proud of that, and I'm proud to be up here doing it. So I just want to thank Tyler, Texas for supporting our building programs, and the facilities that you've graced us with are amazing. And since we don't have to ask for anything else, hopefully, in quite some time, you know, on our interest rate and our INS side, hopefully we'll be able to continue to see that drop over time, that rate, as we eliminate debt from previous bonds. So that is all I have to say. Anybody else have any comments?
Yeah, I'll say something. I would love to pay our teachers more, no doubt about it. Our teachers should start at $60,000 a year, just like Dallas, just like Garland, just like Houston, just like Austin. But the way the formulas are built within the legislature as far as school finance goes, we don't get that opportunity in a place like East Texas or maybe in far West Texas. There is no balance in that. Understandably, it does cost more to live in those metropolitan areas. The quality of life and the cost of living in East Texas certainly is different. I'm not saying it's better. I'm not saying it's worse, but it is different. So whenever you start talking about tax rates, you start talking about funding, that is one thing that I think folks need to understand whenever we start reducing a tax rate here or celebrating that one way or the other. It's not that we're cutting ourselves off at the knees. We are actually not maxed out, but we're doing as best we can in regard to paying our teachers. That is the primary folks that we need to be concerned about, all 1,700 of them. So in saying that, I do think that understanding the school finance, the formulas that are built into that are baked into that, is very complex. It's not fair in a lot of cases because we do want to pay our teachers more, but at the same time, being able to do this for our taxpayers is a big win because we can afford it, no doubt. We are at the cap, Ms. Bjork, in regard to M&O tax rate. We didn't go any lower on that because we start off with, can we give our teachers and our staff a raise, and we were able to accomplish that. On the debt service side, values have gone up. There's no reason to keep the tax rate at the same level. It gives you a little bit of a break as a homeowner or as maybe as a property owner in regard to your taxation as well. So we have the funds to be able to pay our teachers and to pay our debt off, and I think those are the two priorities that folks I think in the community can look at. Are we meeting our obligation to make sure we're managing our fiscal program in a manner that is pleasing? And while I would love to have additional funds, as the young lady talked about, to be able to do some creative things, especially with teacher pay, here we are. And here we are to the conversation again about the next legislative session and whether or not we're going to pay our teachers an adequate wage and our staff an adequate wage as well. So thank you for bringing that up as well, and allowing us to maybe even have a little conversation up here at the dais in regard to teacher pay along with the upcoming legislative session.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any comments? All right. Thank you, Dr. Crawford. Okay, now we'll consider the approval of the 2021-2022 final amended budget.
I move we approve the final amended budget.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, the motion carries. Okay, we're up to our business, legal, finance, and consent agenda. We do have items A through K, but I think we wanted to pull item B, and did somebody want to pull I?
Aye. Yeah.
Okay.
And I want to just have a question on A too.
Okay. Do you want to pull A?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So we'll pull those, and I'll entertain a motion on C, D, E, F, G, H, and J.
So moved.
And K. Okay.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, the motion carries. Let's go back up to A. Mr. Bergfeld had a question on the approval of the resolution to commit fund balance of the general fund and the preventative maintenance fund.
Yes, I just had a question. I wasn't sure what exactly this looked like. Tasha, are we taking money out of the general fund and the preventive maintenance fund and moving it for the employee performance incentive? No. Okay. Tell me what's going on here.
You know, y'all used to have a microphone on your table over there.
Right.
I think y'all need to move it back over there.
Selectively got those moved.
I know. Let's put them on that table.
Those are two separate fund balances. One of them is in the general fund, and it's like $1 million for incentives. We use that for the distinctions or any other little performance incentives that we come up with and so we have $1 million sitting there. The rest is the 3 pennies of preventive maintenance. It's basically a board designation that we must follow unless we come to you to change the amount we put in it, and we have to spend it a certain way.
Okay. So that's we're just stating that, once again, this year, we're going to put the 3 pennies in
Right.
for the
And
preventive
we're
maintenance fund.
designating that or reserving that fund balance for only preventive maintenance or only
Okay.
the incentive.
That's perfect. I just wanted to make sure we weren't shuffling funds around that, using.
It's a requirement, a GASB requirement. It came about a few years ago, and those are the only board designations that we need to do.
Okay.
It's a no-no for us to shuffle that money around, Mr.
Don't
Bergfeld.
touch the preventive
We know
maintenance
better
fund.
than that. And since you brought it up, again, here we are talking about taking care of our facilities that our taxpayers have given us. 3 cents of our tax rate every year goes to the maintenance and the TLC to our buildings and our grounds. So anything from seal coats on parking lots to painting to new flooring. Come on, Mr. Loper. HVAC improvements, all the infrastructure, window replacements outside of Esser, Uncle Esser. Anytime we need to do something like that, that's 3 cents of this tax rate is dedicated for that. So thank you for bringing that up.
Okay.
I move we approve item A.
Item A, do I have a second? Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it, the motion carries. Next, we'll go to B, which is to consider the approval of gifts and donations.
Yeah, we have one item tonight for the Tyler ISD Foundation. Just a great partner for us that goes out and seeks some funds to enhance and supplement some of the budgetary items that might be a little bit outside the normal budgetary allotments that we provide our campuses or maybe in the district. And this year, the Tyler ISD Foundation, or at least this month, the Tyler ISD Foundation on page 34 of your packet provided $10,000 to the district for convocation.
Awesome. So good to have such a good partner in the Tyler ISD Foundation. Do I have a motion on that item?
Also moved.
Thank you. Do I have a
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Thank you so much, Tyler ISD Foundation, for always helping out in all the ways that you do.
I don't think Sonny Farr is here tonight, but Patrick MacArthur was here, but he just left. Okay.
Yeah. Everybody's leaving us, man.
Anybody, any other Tyler ISD Foundation board members here? Okay.
Okay. Moving on to I. Consider the approval of the demolition of the MW Dogan facility.
On page 51 of your packet, board, something for consideration that we've been kind of working on and projecting at the administration level. had some discussions with the board under proper statutory authority. And we wanted to bring this to y'all to see what your temperature may be in regard to considering an actual, what to do with the building at Dogan. Certainly, we're kind of at this point in the back end of some of our buildings to where, lifespans are being considered in regard to the proctoring of educational opportunities for students. We've got buildings sprinkled throughout the school system in all parts of our city that were built in the 21st century, and have updated a lot of buildings and a lot of facility programming for students, in the last 8 years. Great 2017 bond that was provided by our community to pretty much rebuild our high schools. That was on the heels of the 2013 bond that was able to redo 3 of our middle schools and rehab some of the last elementaries that we needed rehabbing. And then also the CT Center. And then here we are, this last May, we were able to successfully pass the Hubbard and Early College High School bond. So putting this in front of you all about the opportunities to consider Dogan, because we've got Mr. Loper with us. He'll come up here in just a minute, because we do have some maintenance issues that are projected to be quite expensive, that the board needs to give us guidance on in regard to where we go with those maintenance needs as far as that goes. So I've got Mr. Loper here that will provide some information for y'all as we go through this discussion in regard to the former Dogan Middle School campus.
Thank you, Dr. Crawford and board members. First of all, I've been looking at the Dogan facility for a while and actually putting together costs and trying to figure out what it is we could do with the facility, and as far as the upkeep. So as we go through today, we're spending about $132,000 annually just to keep the doors closed. So that's all of the maintenance work orders. That's going over and checking on it and cleaning it as necessary. That's all the fiber optics, the technology, the cameras that we have to keep up, the yard maintenance, and any roof maintenance throughout the year. So I approached Dr. Crawford and kind of gave some more information. Because Dogan is closed and we're not utilizing it at this point, we have deferred some life cycle cost on that building. And one of them is the roof is right now 24 years old. The HVAC is 22 years old, and we have several out. The building itself is 60 years old, so when I put these costs together, and they're very conservative, and we do have some very good data because we're replacing the HVAC on 8 facilities, if you recall. But as we move forward in the future, there's a lot of things that would have to take place just to reoccupy that building if you so chose to do that. So in all those repairs that we're looking at, you're looking at about $3.2 million just to bring this building back up, and that's a very conservative look at it at this point. We would have to bring it up to current codes also if we reoccupy, because the city would make us reapply for a certificate of occupancy. Then it would kick in a lot of things that I haven't put. So those are kind of the things that I've put together and that we're looking at if we reoccupy that building.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Loper in regards to anything facility-oriented? I think he went over, cost of main, we're 130-something thousand a year.
That's correct.
And then you said 3.2 to bring it back to life if we were to use it in any of the district's needs in some sort of
And
functional capacity.
That's just immediate needs. That's nothing you can stand at the curb at and look at and see what we've done.
Dr. Crawford, do you, as the CEO of the district, have any uses spatially for that building that would make it worth doing as far as any staff? Or I have my opinion on kids in that building. I wouldn't want to, given our expectations and community expectations of the buildings we now have, I really wouldn't want to have kids in there. I feel like we're covered as far as space for kids go. But is there anything in the district could use it for?
Some of our older buildings that we have occupied that come to mind, obviously the old A.T. Stewart School, we did a lot of work there. So I'm pretty maxed out on kid stuff because of what our community has bestowed to us the last 20 plus years to put every one of our kids just about in a 20th century facility. As far as staff goes, because we rehabbed the St. Louis school, we were able to give ourselves some elbow room with maintenance and in transportation, police department, safety and security, which also gave us some elbow room over here with special ed and Head Start, along with curriculum instruction, moving our DAEP to the old Pete building as well, and taking really good care of that campus. I can't say that without me just making stuff up to occupy, just to put staff somewhere, is somewhere that I would say that, that facility is where we'd put them. Two things there. One, it's not as centrally located as those other facilities that I just mentioned. And the other thing is we're trying to be as lean as we possibly can administratively. So trying to say we're going to grow administratively, I think we've done a pretty good job over the last 8 years or so of being as lean as we possibly can. So to answer your question, no, sir. I don't have staff or any I don't foresee any reason of occupying that as an office building per se.
Anybody have any comments or questions on the board?
Just clarification in regards to the maintenance cost, $132,000 a year. So if we demolish the building, that fund will save the district as far as maintenance on that facility every year, right?
That's correct. And there's actually something that I forgot to put in here, which would be our property insurance and building insurance. That's another $11,000 a year that we wouldn't have to carry that under our policy.
And that would go back into our maintenance fund, correct? Right?
It'd go back in our M&O budget.
M&O, right.
General budget.
Right. General budget or maintenance?
Maintenance and operations.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we'd still have to keep it up, mow it. There's that cost, but
yes,
not $143,000 or $4,000 a year worth.
Actually, our landscaping is $9,000 a year. Yeah. Utilities, $45,600 a year.
Okay.
Maintenance and work orders that we've done over the past, $58,000. Air filters, $600.
Mr. President, I think just keeping dilapidated buildings with no one in them, with no real purpose for them, that are past their useful life, but they're not historic like Hogg, I think it would be probably a good thing for that community too, to put that back on the tax rolls and let somebody develop it and do something nice with it. It's hard to repurpose these 1960s schools into anything else, really. And it's going to cost so much money. I don't know who could afford to put a new roof on that. You know, I mean, just so many things going against it that I think it's wise for us to not be in the real estate business holding old buildings that just cost a lot of money. So.
Very good. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Yeah, that 3.2 million, it's a large number, so.
Well, then I think Mr. Bergfield makes a good point, though. You can actually, you have the opportunity to turn an expenditure into a revenue.
What about deed restrictions and everything? If we ever got to that point, and you can pretty much deed restrict anything you want right there?
Yes, sir. We'd be in the driver's seat on that. We could actually, if the board chose to sell the property, we can deed restrict not only what kind of homes were built on it, but we could even deed restrict naming rights of the development. We can choose a variety of things.
So, go ahead. I'm sorry. Somebody says something. So if it were to come down and we were to level the site, we'd come back in and at least seed that site for it to be aesthetically pleasing enough?
Yes, sir. We would seed it and we would get the grass established on it. It's in our demolition contract specifications. So, yes, we would leave it nice.
Okay.
So,
and if it weren't developed, you and I have talked about this, we could still honor M.W. Dogan right there, whether it is developed or not. I'm just saying that site could, if it's just a large field that we mowed, that we took care of, we certainly can still honor the building.
absolutely. I mean, it would still be in our name.
Okay.
So, you bet. And just so you know, and I think in the packet, there's a survey and there's an offset in the survey. We were actually planning on saving the track in the field, the existing field, for the Griffin site, who currently use it now.
Very good. And just thinking out loud, the liability of having an empty building and kids, doing what kids do sometimes, it's a lot safer, I think, if it's not there, if we're not using it and we don't have a purpose for it, much to what Mr. Bergfeld said. But I'm thinking about just the security of the situation and having an old building sitting there. And
We have had some vandalism there, and we've actually caught some, like you said, kids will be kids inside the campus. So
yeah,
yes, sir. There is some liabilities to that.
Okay. Well, anybody have any more questions for Mr. Loper? Okay, thank you, Mr. Loper. Well, if nobody else has anything to say, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion on it.
Mr. Chair, I move for the acceptance of the bid proposal by Bar G Incorporated for the demolition of Dogan.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Newsom. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the ayes have it, and the motion carries. All right, now moving on to our curriculum and instruction consent agenda. I think, did you already go over what you wanted to go over?
I did. I was just going to make sure to remind everyone that we presented the district improvement and campus improvement plans to the district before this action item.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion on items A through D.
I move that we approve items A through D.
Thank you, Dr. Nation. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, and the motion carries. Moving on to future business, we have a workshop on September 8th and a regular meeting on September 19th. We got a couple football games coming up this Friday. think Legacy has Lufkin and
Legacy
Tyler.
Lufkin and Tyler High Marshall. Good old East Texas district rivalries. Appreciate our coaches keeping those schools on the schedule, not having to drive up into the Metroplex for our kids and get home at 1 o'clock in the morning after a sub-varsity game.
Right. Well, good luck to both those teams. So I'll go ahead and entertain a motion for adjournment.
Move that we adjourn.
Do I have a second? All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it, and the motion carries. This meeting is adjourned.